This video is brought to you by Henson Shaving. We're slowly closing in on 1 year of the new Labour government, and things could certainly be going better for Keir Starmer. In the last couple of months, we've seen the Labour Party slip further and further down in the polls, with them now being overtaken by Nigel Farage's Reform UK party, indicating that if there was an election held today, on paper at least, Farage could become the next occupant of number 10 Downing Street. There are many well-understood reasons for this. Firstly, Starmer's proven an ineffective communicator, unable to spin a grand narrative for his premiership. Second, his policies have been remarkably unpopular, with him recently actually making a soft U-turn on the decision to means test the winter fuel allowance. And thirdly, the international landscape has provided no respite to embattled Chancellor Rachel Reeves. Seemingly every time she comes up with a plan to kickstart growth, something happens on the world stage that wipes this out and puts her back on square one. Against this backdrop, recently released polling data shows that not only has Starmer's first months in office been bad, they're the worst since 1983, when polling data of this kind began. So, in this video, we're going to have a look into this, analysing exactly how bad Starmer's start has actually been. After 14 long years out of power, how's Starmer doing at the helm of the UK? Well, it's a mixed bag. So check out our analysis of Labour's leader, their foreign policy and economic issues in our magazine Too Long. Read more by clicking the link in the description. Now, it's best to start by having a look at where we are with UK polling. As we've mentioned in a few videos and podcasts recently, Reform UK has really shot up in the polls in the last few weeks. While earlier this year there were occasional polls that showed them out in front, since the 16th of April, Reform has consistently been first in every poll by the major pollsters. Even more significantly, since the local elections on the 1st of May, we've seen that Reform has not only polled out in front, it has, in some instances, recorded double-digit leads. A Find Out Now poll from the 21st of May, for instance, shows Reform on 32%, and Labour in second place down on 21%. Giving Reform an 11-point lead. On the flip side of things to Reform, the Conservatives have been dropping even faster than Labour, and are actually starting to poll ever so slightly lower than the Liberal Democrats, meaning that they've essentially dropped down to 4th place. Obviously, while this has helped Labour, a stronger Conservative party might have been able to beat them to 2nd place in the current polling landscape, things certainly aren't looking rosy for them. As we pointed out, Labour is still in 2nd place to Reform UK, and well, things don't look any rosier when we turn to Starmer's personal poll ratings. IPSOS put Starmer on a -31 net favourability rating. This is significantly worse than Ed Davey on -7 and Nigel Farage on -19. Although it is slightly better than Kemi Badenoch, who was polling pretty much as badly on a -32 net favourability rating. All in all then, it should be abundantly clear that things really aren't going well for Starmer and Labour. But just how bad is this? To answer this, we're going to have a look at two different sets of polls. First, we're going to compare the first 8 months of polling for Starmer's government to the first 8 months of previous governments. Then we're going to have a look at the most important issues facing voters, and what they think of Labour on these issues. As we can see, thanks to Mark Pack, who has consolidated historical polling information, Labour's post-election polling has been the worst of any government since 1983, when this kind of polling average began. In the first 8 months of governing, their average polling has dropped a whopping 12.3 points, from 37.5% in July 2024 to 25.2% in March 2025. In all 11 elections since 1983, this is not only the largest drop in polling of a governing party, but it's the largest drop by some margin. Only following the 1992 election, in which John Major came through with a shock victory, did a polling drop even come close to this. Even then though, Tory polling only dropped 8.3 points in Major's first 8 months. Not quite the 12.3 point drop experienced by Starmer's Labour. Similarly, when we turn to look at the average polling in the 8 months since the election, Labour has averaged a mere 29.2%. The next lowest polling average since an election was following the 2015 general election, when the Conservatives, who had just secured a small majority, averaged only 39.1% in their first 8 months. Even this is 10 points higher than the current Labour government though. On both of these metrics then, Starmer's government is performing the worst of any government after an election since at least 1983. When we move on and have a look at policy areas, we can start to see why. According to YouGov, the public think that the two most important policy areas are asylum and immigration and the economy. Unfortunately for Starmer, Labour are just not trusted on either of these, despite their efforts in recent weeks and months. On asylum and immigration, a mere 11% think that Labour would be the best party to handle this. Above them is none, indicating a respondent thinks that no party would do well handling it, which is on 14%, and Reform UK, which is on 37%. 71% of Brits have also said that immigration has been too high for the last 10 years, and 76% have said that the current government is handling the issue badly. Realising this was an issue, a few weeks ago, Starmer announced a new set of rules aimed at cracking down on immigration. As part of this, he promised to increase the amount of time that migrants have to have lived in the UK before attaining settled status, while also introducing new rules requiring English tests for all visa applicants. Clearly, though, the electorate have not been convinced by this. When it comes to the economy, things look just as dire. According to YouGov, roughly the same number of people think Labour and the Tories would be better at looking after the economy. Brutally, though, the same number think that no party would be good at looking after it. In fact, when asked which specific government, one led by Starmer or one led by Badenoch, would be better at looking after the economy, 49% of respondents claim that neither party would be good. Clearly, the electorate has no optimism that the political class at the moment can get a handle on the economy. The Labour government promised to improve the financial situation in the UK. In fact, this was one of the main points of the election campaign. This just hasn't happened yet, and people have had to suffer with spending cuts, whether that's welfare or the winter fuel allowance, alongside negligible growth. Now, while getting on top of these policy areas may not be an instant quick fix for Starmer's polling, it could, at the very least, be the beginning of a Labour comeback. Lots of people actively don't like shaving. It's getting increasingly expensive, with brands selling overpriced razor cartridges stuffed with useless technology. And even if you do pay for all of it, you're often still left with a bad shave, razor burn, ingrown hairs, and irritation. That's a problem that Henson aimed to solve with their razor. So, in typical TLDR style, let me explain why Henson's razors are better for 3 reasons. Firstly, Henson's AL13 razor, which they produce at their aerospace machine shop, holds blades at a perfect 30-degree angle, extending the blade just 0.0013 inches past the shave plane. That's less than the thickness of a human hair, which keeps the blade supported properly, unlike many other companies' blades, and ensures a better protection for your skin. Secondly, they're just cheaper. Those fancy blade cartridges are full of single-use junk, which makes each individual blade way more expensive than what you actually need. Henson's razor just takes totally standard blades that cost just a few cents, which means you can save money and can refresh your blades more often, so you don't need to keep dragging a dull razor across your face to try and get value out of that overpriced plastic. Finally, speaking of plastic, those cartridges aren't good for the environment either, with 2 billion razor cartridges thrown away every year in the US alone. That's not true of Henson's blades, which contain 0 plastic, even in their packaging. If you want to try it out, go to hensonshaving.com/TLDR, or click the link in the description. Then add a razor and 100 blades to your cart. Once you've done that, add our discount code TLDR at checkout, and you'll get all of those blades totally free.